Hailed by his supporters as a revolutionary, his detractors now consider him the leader of a coup. Either way, Mohamed Morsi has reignited the debate over presidential powers in post-revolution Egypt by issuing a far-reaching decree. Will his actions further divide Egyptian society? And is the Muslim Brotherhood tightening its grip on power? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finigan. Mohamed Morsi made history when he became president of Egypt. He's the first civilian to hold the post and the first to get there by winning a contested election. But is he now becoming another authoritarian leader? Well, the opposition certainly thinks so. Key opposition figure Mohamed el-baradei even described him on Twitter as the country's new pharaoh. A major blow, he said, that could have dire consequences for the revolution. Well, as you can see, protesters gathered once again in Tahrir Square in Cairo. In Alexandria, some protests turned violent after angry protesters set on fire a number of Muslim Brotherhood offices. Now, while some support the president's latest move, others gathered to voice their frustration about what they say is, in effect, a coup. Morsi's new decree gives him sweeping powers and bans all challenges to any decision he makes. In effect, he can do whatever he wants. Morsy also sacked Egypt's prosecutor general and ordered the retrial of those linked to the killings of protesters. The president says he's just protecting the revolution, but opposition figures say he's put himself above the law. Well, this is what some of the protesters against the decree had to say.
We protested for 18 days and ousted Mubarak. And in 3 days, God willing, we'll oust Morsy. The best that man deserves is to be the preacher in a local mosque.
Morsi is giving himself new authority with this constitutional declaration. He totally ignored the whole Egyptian judicial system with this new declaration and destroyed the third authority.
Well, this latest decree comes after a series of key events, and by way of background, here's a look at just some of them. During April's presidential campaign, he was called the spare tyre candidate because he entered the race only after Kherat al-Shatta was disqualified. Well, despite that, 2 months later, he went on to win the election and became Egypt's first civilian leader. In August, he cemented his authority when he sacked the army chief, Field Marshal Tantawi. He also scrapped a key constitutional document which gave the military legislative powers and other prerogatives. And most recently, his successful mediation in the Gaza crisis showed that Cairo is still a stabilizing force in the region. So, is Mohamed Morsi really protecting the revolution in Egypt? To discuss the issue, we're joined by our guests today in Cairo, Gamal Soltan, Professor of Political Science at the American University in Cairo. Here in Doha, Sabry Hafez, Professor at Qatar University. He's also a part of the liberal movement in Egypt. And joining us via Skype from Luxor is Abdul Mawgoud Dardery, a leading member of the Freedom and Justice Party. We'll start with you, Abdul Mawgoud Dardery. With this decree and the assertion that his decisions are final and can't be challenged, President Morsi is in danger of becoming more autocratic than the very man that Egyptians rose up to overthrow, isn't he?
Not at all. It is almost the opposite. I believe he is, and the majority of Egyptian people believe that President Morsi was really late in protecting the goals and the main objectives of the revolution. In fact, the first demand of the revolution is to stabilize the new system in Egypt. He succeeded in pushing the civilian rule and pushing the military out of the way, and now is stabilizing the system, the democratic. He's protecting the democratically elected institution, and that is very much needed so that Egypt and Egyptians can move forward. I just came from a march in the streets of Luxor, as well as in the streets of so many cities and places in Egypt, and large numbers of people are saying, yes, thank you, President Morsi, for doing this so that Egypt can move forward. At the same time, I understand there is opposition, and that is the new Egypt, the Egypt of democracy. Let us agree to disagree, and at the end of the day, the ballot box will tell the reality whether President Morsi, we have elections in few months, after the Constitutional Assembly is done with the Constitution, there will be parliamentary election. And this is a time for the liberals, for the seculars, for the Islamists, for everyone of Egypt to go back to the streets and ask for their votes. And let us see who does better votes than others. And this is how Egypt should go in the future.
Gamal Soltan, what do you make of this? The president says that he encourages the presence of a strong opposition in Egypt. What do you make of the timing of this move, which he could have pulled off months ago? I mean, right about the time that he tried to get rid of the prosecutor general the last time, but backed off. Why now?
I just need to begin by commenting on your guest from Luxor here. I mean, I see nothing democratic on those decrees at all. I'm getting to have doubts about whether we will be having a next election actually after turning Morsi. And I wouldn't say even President Morsi because many things, but turning himself into a real dictator. Now he has hold of all kinds of power in the country. He has the executive power, the legislative power, and he placed himself above the law and above the court system. What kind of democracy is that? President Morsi now in this decrees granted himself the right to take to declare emergency laws or martial laws, and without allowing any peaceful or legal means to resist or oppose what he is deciding or what his decrees. I mean, what kind of democracy is that? Never heard in history, never heard in any experience of democratic transition, of democracy being built or established through going through a process of a real dictatorship. It is really frightening what is happening now, and what is not only President Morsi but the entire Muslim Brotherhood and the other Islamists are trying to do to the country. The timing definitely is a function of the successful outcome of the ceasefire in Gaza. President Morsi was praised for his contribution to that, and in a very opportunistic way, apparently he thought this gives him sufficient power to act against the opposition in Egypt and to determine the future of Egypt for decades to come. This is very opportunistic, and I think even it's miscalculation, because I don't think President Morsi, or Morsi actually, will maintain or can secure the support of the United States or any other really pro-democracy entity in the world after taking those decrees.
All right, before we bring in Sabry Hafez, then let's give Abdul Mawgoud Dardery a right of reply. The president here has miscalculated. How on earth can this protect the revolution, as people like you are claiming?
Not at all, not miscalculation at all. In fact, it was too late. And we really asked him to do more decrees so that we stabilize the revolution, so that we achieve all the goals of revolution, which belong to dignity, freedom, and social justice. And this is what we need. President Morsi represents the people of Egypt. The people of Egypt are elected him, and he's entitled to serve the needs of the Egyptians. Go to the streets, Professor Sultan. The streets will tell you that I am a member of the parliament, and I feel the people, I meet the people. People say, why are you waiting too much? And at this time, I do thank President Morsi, and the majority of people in Egypt are happy today, and they were marching in the different streets in different places to ask him to continue cleansing the old system. Unless there is the reason why you didn't hear this before, because, sir, it's a revolution. And revolution, it changes things. If you would like to say, as you used to do in the past, it's not going to happen. I'm telling you now, this is a revolution, and the Egyptian people have decided to move forward.
Okay, let's bring in Sabry Hafez, then, professor at Qatar University. What do you make of what you've heard so far in the discussion?
Yeah, I want to start by answering your question about the timing. The timing is actually, unlike my colleague in Cairo, who said it is because of Morsi's self-perceived or self-illusion that he succeeded in in Gaza and bringing the ceasefire, this has been done by Mubarak many different times. The only difference is that Mubarak allied with Abbas and Morsi is allying with Hamas because Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. So what he has done is nothing different from what Mubarak has done. The timing actually is a cover-up, is a smoke screen and a cover-up for passing the universally unpopular loan that they are going to sign with the International Monetary Fund. This loan is completely going to tie the Egyptian economy to the exactly same system of corruption and of pillaging the country resources and of putting all the pressure on the poor to make them poorer, to remove the old forms of subsidy and to get the rich richer. This time, instead of the clique and the group of Gamal Mubarak, it is going to be the clique and the group of the Muslim Brotherhood. The recent decision are really, as you heard from Cairo, as completely undemocratic. They have nothing to do with the aims of the revolution. They are actually counter-revolutionary. They have nothing to do whatsoever with the aims of the revolution. If they were actually to do with the aims of the revolution, they had already 5 months to move against those who killed the demonstrators, to do something to address the horrible gap in the distribution of wealth in Egypt, to achieve the minimum amount of social justice. That was the major slogan of the revolution, and to stabilize a proper system of democracy. The first item for the system of democracy is to have a democratic constitutional assembly to write the constitution. Right. This is mainly to protect the faulty constitution they wanted to pass the unpopular loans with the International Monetary Fund, and on the back of which I already wrote that last Saturday in At-Tahrir, in the back of which they're going to pass a bigger loan from the European Union and so on. Look, so they are completely for the sole interest of the Muslim Brotherhood against the interest of Egypt, against the interest of the revolution, and against the interest of the masses. I know that is why, unlike what the man in Luxor is saying, the majority of the Egyptians are actually against it. If you look at the demonstration now in Tahrir Square, compare it with the orchestrated herd of the Muslim Brotherhood in front of the presidential palace, you know the difference. One is orchestrated, one is actually made, the other one is the real spontaneous reaction of the Egyptian completely against creating another dictator. The Egyptians suffered from dictatorship long enough.
Look, time is tight here. We're going to have to keep our answers, if we can, a little bit brief. I know we're all passionate and have a lot to say on this. Just before we move on, Abdul Mawgoud Dardery, do you want to reply to what you've just heard there?
Yes, please. With all due respect to the two professors, I feel sorry for you because you're really isolated from the masses of Egypt. I live with the poor people of Egypt, and that's why they choose me to represent them in the parliament. I know what they want. This is what they have been asking us for months now, that we really needed to move with the country forward. The constitution, the draft that is made now, is an honor to the Egyptian people. It's the first of its kind out of 192 constitutions in the world. The great Egyptian minds met together for 6 months. And unfortunately, just weeks before the draft is to be over, a group of so-called liberals, it is very unfortunate. I think liberalism and secularism are away from it is political cynicism. And that political cynicism has to come to an end so that the people of Egypt can move forward. And the old regime, those who benefited from the old regime, have to either, if they fail to lead, they have to follow or get out of the way.
Okay, all right. Gamal Soltan, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the right to define what is liberalism for us. I mean, it's very funny. But let me put it this way. It is very deceptive the way the Muslim Brothers and Mohamed Morsi are juggling the arguments of democracy on the one hand and revolution on the other hand. We had a revolution. This was something 2 years ago. Now we have an elected president. Elected president is presidents are elected according according to a law, according to constitution. There is and those law and those constitutions makes a kind of a contract between the people who elected him and between this elected president. All of a sudden now, this president just destroy and remove all kind of legal constraint that he that he should be following, that should be observing, and declaring him a kind of an absolute president. I cannot really call him a president in this case. Let me put it this way: I don't know how your guest from Luxor is thanking Mr. Morsi for taking decisions that really divided this country. My dear friend, Egypt now is really in deep political crisis. Look at the streets. You find people mobilized in front of the presidential palace in Ittihadiyya supporting the president, and you find other people similar in size, maybe more in Tahrir Square and in many other places, protesting the decrees by the president. He made the divide in the country even deeper. Now, we are in deep crisis. How we are going to get out of this is, should the liberals submit to this tyranny that the president is creating in the country? Can he just concede and step back to make some concessions so that we can reconcile again? It is really a deep crisis, and that not only the people, but we see many institutions actually are involved in that. We see the judiciary in Egypt now, since yesterday, revolting against those decrees. They already declared a strike for the court system. We see a number of the president's assistants, Samir Morkus and the other, resign from their positions. I don't know exactly how your guest from Luxor can thank somebody for being completely irrational, completely ignoring and inconsiderate for the rest of the country, and driving the country into this deep crisis.
All right, we'll put that to him in just a moment. I also want to come back and talk to you some more about the judiciary in just a moment. But first, Sabry Hafez, let's talk about the opposition for a moment, and the way in which this, for the first time really since the uprising in Egypt, has shocked the liberals into coming together. What can they do to capitalise on the anti-Morsi fervour that we're seeing on Friday on the streets, and how long do you think that they will remain united?
I think they have to be united, and the only hope for Egypt is actually if they are united. Because if, as your guest from Luxor is saying, that these are the demands of the people, why does the president need to protect himself by being outside the law? He is completely now suspending the rule of law, and therefore there is no democracy outside the law. And when it suits them, they are saying that they are defending the revolution, they are acting upon revolution legitimacy, and when it suited them before, they said, no, now it is the rule of law and there is no revolutionary legitimacy anymore. It is actually the emblem of political opportunism rather than political cynicism that he was accusing us of having. If he claimed to be representing the poor, how can be representing the poor when you get that enormous loan from the International Monetary Fund, whose first condition is actually to crush the poor, is actually to stop supporting the poor and to make the rich richer and the poor poorer? How can he represent the poor if he is actually depriving them from democracy, from their hopes? Egypt has yearned and longed for a very long time for real democracy. And when we have a so-called elected president, the very thing he is doing is he wanted to turn himself into a despot, into a tyrannical ruler, completely outside the law, suspending the law. He even wanted not only his past action to be outside the law, even his future action, according to this new resolution, are going to be outside the law. What kind of president is that?
Okay, Abdul Mawgoud Dardery, I mean, this declaration by the president is the climax of months of consolidation of power, beginning really when he sacked Tantawi. Even if we are to believe that he's doing this because he wants to achieve the results for the revolution, does the end justify the means?
Not at all. But let me just clarify the situation I'm in now. I mean, there are two professors there trying to discredit what I am saying. This is an unfair situation. But in spite of this, I will continue saying the following. If the professor from Qatar is saying so-called elected, how dare you say this? He is elected, sir. If you didn't participate in the election or if you voted for the other person, democracy, sir, is to accept the democracy results. That is something we need to learn in Egypt, especially the liberals and the secularists really need to come to grip with this notion. I don't see a crisis in the country. When people compete, this is a positive thing. Days of Mubarak, sirs, are over. They're not going to come back. We want people to be in the streets. We want people to voice their concerns. A strong opposition is a necessity for democracy to succeed. We would like everyone to be able to voice his or her concern. And that is the beauty of Egypt in the coming. What you need, especially my dear liberal friends, they really need to come to terms with democracy. I know that you were isolated in the past from the masses. This is not going to work from now on. You have to be part of the Egyptian populace so that you can really represent them. Okay. You cannot represent them when you're living in ivory towers.
All right, I know that Gamal Soltan is itching to come back on that, which, I mean, please go ahead, Gamal, but keep your answer reasonably brief, because I want to talk to you about the legal limbo that Egypt finds itself in at the moment. No constitution, no parliament. The judiciary has certainly been outmaneuvered here. Is there any legal recourse at all to this? Is there any way that President Morsi could be impeached?
Let me put it this way. I'm just responding to what your guest from Luxor is saying about this is an elected president. Yes, it's an elected president, but his legitimacy is based on the law, on abiding by the law, on the constitution that he was electing according to which. Now he just declared himself above all of this. Actually, he's losing his legitimacy by doing that. I don't like this kind of talk about being isolated, etc. It's really. But in any case, this is nonsense. Let me put it this way: there is no legal way now to impeach the president, to oppose the president, and this is one of the reasons why the situation now is very serious. The president. Or Mohamed Morsi is what he did yesterday is he deprived the opposition from the legal, peaceful means to resist or to oppose the executive, the president. He left the opposition with no choice but to mobilize in the streets, and with the other side also mobilizing in the streets. He is driving this country into street fights because again he is denying the opposition all possibilities of legal peaceful opposition, and I'm afraid this is how the situation is going to develop, unfortunately, in this country, which is very, very scary thing. Okay. What he is doing, what Mohamed Morsi is doing, what the Muslim Brothers is doing is exactly the worst case scenario, the nightmare of everybody the thoughts about the Islamists before the one man, one vote, one time. Okay. This is actually what they are doing, destroying of all democratic prospects in Egypt.
We're rapidly running out of time. I have a feeling that Sabry Hafez, this will be the final comment. Do you see any positives in this, from the opposition point of view? The retrials of those accused of killing protesters in the uprising, the sacking of an unpopular public prosecutor?
I think this is just the sugar coating in order to pass the most horrible other items in his declaration to actually protect himself from the law in the past and for the future, to suspend the legal system almost completely, to pass the faulty constitution that they are actually cooking, a constitution that has been rejected by all the Christian in Egypt, has been rejected by all the liberal forces in Egypt, a constitution that expresses only the concerns of the Islamic forces that joined the revolution late and left it early. Those who really made the revolution are not expressed, their views are not heard, they are not part of the making of that constitution, which is the most important document for the future of Egypt. And on the top of that, he is also including a protection to that faulty National Assembly and the faulty constitution that come out of it in his declaration.
Gentlemen, I'm afraid that the time is against us once again. There's a lot more that I know all of you want to contribute to this debate, which will, I'm sure, go on for many days and weeks to come. Thank you to you all. In Cairo, Gamal Soltan; in Doha, Sabry Hafez and Abdul Mawgoud Dardery in Luxor. And thank you very much indeed for being with us on this edition of Inside Story. If you want to send us your feedback, please do email your thoughts to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From me, Adrian Finigan, thanks for watching. I'll see you again. Bye for now.